right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Goombatoon. We are joined by our baby-faced Big John Heck, and our other baby-face, Mr. Justin Harris, Troponin Nutrition, Troponin Supplements owner. And we have some cool things we want to go over today. Number one, just a little recap of what we've been going through the last week or two. Since the Arnold, pretty much. And then the other thing was going over Troponin IQ. And a lot of you guys are probably confused, saying, what is Troponin IQ? Is it an app? What is going on here? And that is what we are going to get into today and explain to you. So first off, just want to say welcome back, you guys. And, Justin, how has your last 2 weeks been going for you?
Oh, it's been nice, calm, easy, slow. It's been wild. We did the Generation Iron stuff, and then we were just about ready for launch with the Troponin IQ, but our developer was working I don't know how he's alive. He was living on ATP, but to try to get it ready in time to get on camera when Generation Iron was here a couple days before Masters, when you were here when we did that last training session. So we went, just talking the whole week. So we did that. After you left, we went up northern Michigan to Mackinac City. I got after one day there, I had to fly out, catch a red eye to Pittsburgh for Masters Nationals, got in about 3 a.m. And then we were up that morning. That was the Wednesday competitors. And then Thursday, I'll let you say what happened in a minute. Thursday we filmed. That was a great day. And then I was back on a plane. I had to get up at 3:30 that day to fly back to vacation. And then, we're back now, we're settled in, but it was a crazy week.
Yeah. Excuse me. I had my Fresca, but I would say, flying up, when we started talking with Generation Iron, they filmed me training down here probably 3 or 4 weeks out. And I was like, okay, cool. 4 weeks out, whatever, not really a big deal. When we went pretty crazy in the gym. And then they were like, okay, well, we got to film you a week before the show up in Michigan. I live in Virginia Beach on the East Coast. It's not a terrible flight, but still, it's not exactly something you want to be doing a week out of the show. So, ended up flying up to Justin. It was pretty smooth, thank God. And, we got 2 training sessions in and, a lot of posing and stuff. So, and we got some good stuff in for the documentary. Pretty much after I left the next day, it was like, okay, now I'm home for 4 days and I fly right back out to Pittsburgh. And, we get to, I think I got to Pittsburgh that Monday. We were super delayed because of storms and stuff. So I got in super late, luckily packed all my food the day of. So, I had it all in my book bag. And so that everything worked out. Justin got in and I knew he was super exhausted. And Wednesday, and, so I stopped by his room and I was just like, hey man, do you sleep? And he was like, and I was like, that's a no. So I felt super bad, but, luckily Justin's a trooper.
I'm used to it. John, how was your trip to Pittsburgh?
Disastrous, non-existent. That was one of the more frustrating couple days I've had in a long time. I was supposed to be at the show, and instead I spent basically 2 days at the Raleigh-Durham airport.
This is a decent airport.
Yeah, at least it is a decent airport, and I had some meals packed with me. But no, that was rage levels were right on the edge. But unfortunately, I was not able to make it. But was fired up to have John on my podcast and get that episode out there and
it's a good episode
to celebrate the win.
Yeah, and you know what? And someone had mentioned to me, I think it was Justin or Skylar. And they were like, yeah, John's stuck at the airport. I felt so bad. I was like, no. But long story short, obviously you guys have seen by now, we did get the win. Just a quick recap of the show, that night, we looked really good and Justin was confident and I was confident in it. The next morning, we probably didn't have to go on stage until almost 11. So we had probably 3 more meals in me after we woke up. So filled out just a little bit more. Went on stage with a package that we felt was something we were capable of bringing, plus the improvements we made since the Arnold. And we felt very confident. We got moved right to the middle. in first call out, and we did not move. And so we were pretty confident going to finals, tightened up just a little bit more, went for the overall, and they moved us around a little bit just to shake things up. But I was pretty confident in what we were bringing, and we ended up getting the overall and winning the whole show. And that was probably the first time I had seen Justin with just a slight relaxation about him, of just relief after a couple of years. So I'll let Justin say.
I mean, it was clear. I mean, by Wednesday, you've been around the sport long enough. You kind of know what a winning look is. For pro qualifiers, not guaranteed. There's been, like a Nick Walker. I think he took third at North Americans one year when I really thought he should have won. I think Dominic Trevlini was second in his class a year that I thought he had the overall. Kevin Lavroni and Paul DeMeo, both of them could have won pro shows, and they were in the same pro qualifier. So, it happens that you have a look that you typically would win, and something happens. But I was about as confident as I've ever been walking into a show. I mean, it was one of those when you walked out, even before comparisons, it was pretty obvious. But they put in comparisons, and it was very clear. And they even so much. I barely even remember this now. They moved you to the side, right? The one time, did they? God, it might.
So that was for
end.
That was in the
overall.
They did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, well, and so because they did that to Jonathan Arnold, and in rare cases, it's such a dominant performance that they'll move you to the side just to compare second through fifth or whatever. I think they did that with Phil Heath one year at maybe it was USA's, maybe junior nationals. It's rare, but it happens when it's I think even one show, maybe it was Phil Heath. They just had him leave the stage. It's so, so it's rare, but sometimes the winner gets moved out of the center, and to just kind of add a little bit of stress at the Arnold, when we had beat the guy who won the Arnold 10 days earlier, we get to the Arnold, and John gets moved to the side, and we're thinking, okay, but, I didn't think it was quite the dominant performance. But when they moved him to the side this time, and Nista looked over at me kind of with like a little panic look, and I said, no, this time is good.
Yeah, it was a good feeling.
Just do that for purposeful theatrics.
I didn't even really think about it in the moment, because you're just kind of, you're just like stressed, but I forgot that happened at the Arnold. But I don't know if they did that, that's kind of a brilliant play on emotions, because they did. It was basically the same thing. We're going into the Arnold. We had beat the eventual winner 10 days earlier. We thought we had it. We thought we had a look that was improved from 10 days earlier. They moved to the side, and it was a legit move to the side. Whether or not they knew they did it this time, it was the same thing. So there was a moment, but it was obvious that it was. But that's a good thing. When you get moved to the side, when you win, that's good. That means they're not even comparing you with number two, really. So,
yeah. So I would say just wrapping it up was a really good time. A little stressful. Unfortunately, John, he tried his hardest to get there, but who knows?
That's okay. I used half the ATP samples, anyways.
Yeah, I was getting photos every 5 minutes on the 5 minutes from Skylar, so I was on the edge of my seat watching. But I mean, as soon as I saw pictures of you, I knew you had it in the bag.
Yeah, so it's always good. So that's sort of a wrap up of finally getting the pro card, and now we take some solid time off, and by solid time I mean probably like 10 months of an off season, and then we hit a pro debut next year, and try to crack a top 5 and see what we can do. So that being said, there was something that happened this week that's been in the works for a while, and I don't know if everyone understands what it is. And it's called Troponin IQ. And Justin, I want you to explain just the basics first, and then we'll deep dive into it.
Yeah, so it's an AI system, but it's my knowledge, and so it's hard to explain how close it is to my knowledge. But one thing I've done that sets me apart, I think, from most people, is I've just been in the industry so long. And I've always kept files for everything. I got external hard drives, Google drives. I've got 20 terabytes of data over across multiple drives. I've been saving stuff since 2004. It's something like 700,000 files. And it just, because it adds up. You're doing diets all day, writing articles all day. I've got hundreds of articles that were half written. I didn't like it, didn't complete it, whatever. Well, we train this AI on every YouTube content I've ever done, podcast. There was like 1,200 hours or 1,300 hours of podcast content, plus all my videos, all my formulas and my training programs, the algorithms in Shredded and Massive, the algorithms in a third version of that was never released, every training program I ever wrote, every article I ever wrote, Comprehensive Performance Nutrition Volume 3, which has been written but not fully edited, and then 11,000 individually answered questions, plus, like I said, 700, we've been training for months, 700,000 files. And so basically it knows what I know. But even better than that, it knows everything I know about the fitness industry or fitness in general, but it knows it as well as I ever knew it, because it knows it as well as I knew it when I wrote the article explaining it, So it actually knows everything better than I do, because a lot of these things, when we were stress testing it, I like acetylcoenzyme A carboxylase 2 is one that I remember I was doing some articles about, and I remember how it works in the body. It's related to fat loss. It's like it's in there, but I'd have to really work to get it out. But when I asked it about it, it knew it like I knew it when I was kind of really obsessed with studying that thing. So it's really incredible. I just posted a video on Troponin Supplements Instagram yesterday where I just said, hey, Justin, write me a 12-week contest prep diet. And it did. Every meal, cardio, PED recommendation. I mean, everything. And it's basically, it's always going to be getting better because we're continually training it. Right now, we're training it on visual analysis. So eventually, we'd like you to be able to upload photos and it'll adjust your diet and training based on that. But it'll write full training programs, full diet programs. You can be going to the gym and say, hey, Justin, write me a training program. I'm training chest today, focus on upper chest. And it will know as because it learns with you, it'll know whether you prefer progressive overload, whether you like volume, whether you're doing PPL, what your body weight is, what your body fat is, whether you're off season, because it remembers everything that you've ever entered into it. And so it'll output an upper chest workout, and it'll even say, I know you haven't been a fan of free barbell upper chest movement. So rather than incline barbell, we're implementing Smith machine incline. And I think, I haven't added this exercise to the workout, but I'd like you to try this and then, report back if it actually targets your upper chest. And it'll remember all this. I mean, it's really remarkable. It's not going to replace, I'm not using with my coaching, and I don't know how far it would be until I can get to that point. But it's pretty remarkable in how good it is. And this is the use case I think AI is going to really have early on. Obviously, at some point it's going to get so advanced that there's going to be use cases we just haven't even thought of yet. But the problem is right now is things like ChatGPT, they're generalized and open. So they know, it's a huge language model, large language model. It's as large as it gets because it's like everything on the internet. But the problem is the internet's stupid, So it's going to respond with the most probable answer from all the data it has from everything it's collected from the internet. And so for like generalized things, what's wrong? I'm driving this type of car and this thing's happening. What's wrong with it? It'll tell you. Or, hey, I have a Shopify website. I need to add this. It'll know those things. But if you ask it like a peak week protocol, it's combining things I've said. It's combining things other coaches said. It's combining stupid things idiots have said. Like I've heard people say, you need to burn yourself in a suntan bed the night before the show to burn off that top layer of skin. And so, because I've asked it these things, and like one time I asked it, it said to like cut sodium. Another time it gave a sodium recommendation was way too low. And so the way I'm kind of viewing it, and I want to market it is, if I needed to write if I was a computer programmer and I needed to write a Python script to analyze some data, I could go to ChatGPT and say, write the Python script to analyze this kind of data, and it'll output something and it'll probably work. But if I could do the same thing and instead ask the lead Python engineer at Google, that's the answer I want, because that's going to, and so that's what you're getting with it. It's where there's a case where like the large language models can get too generalized. And for general, everyday, hey, ChatGPT, my stomach hurts, what could it possibly be? And you find out you have cancer or whatever. But, like those types of things, that, the general stuff. But if you really want a specific thing, that you don't have that option other than this. And so eventually I would like to get other coaches added on, other coaches, more kind of, coaches like me, but then other coaches in other areas. We're working on, with the visual stuff, we're working on a thing where you can take a photo of your food and it will analyze the food and it'll know the macros and it'll add that to your diet because it can track all that. So we're working on a ton of stuff. We're working on integration with things like MyFitnessPal. But what I'm really excited about long term is the research data we can do. I want to publish these down the road where we'll have the image trackers. We'll basically be able to have like a human body frame, like a naked human body. It won't have genitalia or whatever, but a naked human body, and that would kind of be what your body is, or anybody's body or whatever. But I'll be able to say at some point in the future, I'll say, hey Justin, show me the rate of body composition improvement for users who have used progressive overload for at least 60% of their training versus people who have used a bro split, or people who have used carb cycling versus a static calorie deficit or keto or anything. And we'll be able to say, and I'll have millions of data plot points and you'll be able to see, if the carb cycling body over time, they're building muscle and losing body fat. You see their stats and you see that progression is better than those who followed this. We'll have some actual real world data on these topics that we can't answer, because you can't do a 12-year study where someone weighs and measures all their food and you guarantee they ate it. But this, we're not doing the study. You're just self-reporting, and I can pick the parameters for what percentage of time you needed to be on something to be included in the data. But things like protein. So we'll know how much protein you're eating because you're asking it for diets. It's outputting the diet, and then you report whether you follow it or you don't. And you don't even have to report it because it can basically infer from the fact of you whether or not you say later down the road when you ask it a prompt, if you mention whether you've been following the diet or what you've changed or what you ate previously. And so I think we'll be able to, I'll say, plot the muscle growth of the average user from the last 5 years who've eaten an average protein of 1.2 grams per kilogram versus someone who's eaten 2 or 3 or even 4 grams per kilogram of body weight. And we can see their rate of muscle growth, and we'll see if it levels off. Because we would expect that as protein goes up, muscle growth is going to go up, but we would also probably assume there's a plateau. We'll know where that is. Where is it? Is it 1 gram per kilogram? 2 grams? Do very high protein diets actually cause more muscle growth? And we'll have the actual data, not people on the internet saying, yeah, I grew faster when I ate more protein. We'll actually know because we'll have all your body stats. And it's like the things the future things we'll be able to do are just so exciting. It's hard to stay focused on stuff because you just kind of want these things to start happening. But it's launched, TroponinIQ.com. We're doing a launch discount. It's going to be $50 a month. We're doing it for $29.99 a month right now. We're getting great response so far. The feedback we're getting has been great because we have a direct loop to our developers. And the feedback was almost too good because we weren't getting anything other than this is amazing, this is awesome. Well, guys are finally starting to use it a little deeper now where they're giving us some good input on what responses they like, what they don't, what they thought it answered well, where it's too formal, things like that.
So we're already getting some comments roll in. Tyler, what's up, big dog? Thanks for supporting. Dean is on Team Troponin, and he was a huge help over Masters Nationals. He did great, placed, I think, top 3. Was it top 3, Justin?
I thought he was 4th, but no,
3rd or 4th.
He was
up
very
there,
well, and we could have done better too.
Yeah,
he'll be better next year. If you saw what he looked like already, we were worried about having him lean enough. I really wasn't, but I wanted to make sure he was. But seeing how lean he's staying through the high carbs after the show has me very excited for this year.
Yeah, he got third.
Third, yeah.
So he looked amazing. Dean, shout out to you and Wifey, man. You guys are absolutely awesome. Shout out to Jake. Jake on the team as well did great in the light heavies, so he's one to watch.
Jake got first call outs. Big step up for him. So he's now in. Dean and Jake are both in that kind of and Tim, I consider too, are kind of in that. Once you get in that like a first call out type situation, a pro qualifier, you're straightforward for a pro card. After that, you get that first call out and it doesn't go as well as you'd like. It's frustrating, but that's a big step forward because now you're all in going for the pro card from then on.
Blue collar bodybuilding, what's going on, you guys? Thanks for chiming in, supporting. Miss you guys. Quick question from Abraham. Justin, on your high carb day cheat meal, are high fats allowed? If so, how does it work on the high day since the carb cycle is designed for zero fats outside of the cheat meal?
It's not designed for zero fats. There's only so many calories you can get, and I want to maximize the number of calories that come from carbohydrates. Now, it's a little confusing for the cheat meal. You are allowed to have fats, but the thing is like nothing's magic. If you eat 2 pounds of deep fried butter, you're going to get 2 pounds of deep fried butter results. So the cheat meal is there at the end of the day when your appetite is lowest, when your stomach's the fullest because you've had your high carb day and you have to go to bed after. So you're limited on time. You can't stay up. You could, but if you stay up all night eating, you're going to pay for it the next day. You're limited on appetite in that it's probably the period of time during the week you've had the most calories in the hours leading up to it. And so that's really the only reason it's that time of day is I just find that if I have people do a cheat meal for meal one, the probability that the cheat meal turns into a cheat day is higher than it should be. But if I have it as the last meal of the day, the only way it can extend is if you just skimp out on sleep. So you are allowed fats, but you get what you give. It's if you're not it's to get rid of cravings, so you're on plan every other meal of the week. If you're using it as a like just to see what kind of disgusting bacony crap you can eat, you're going to get that kind of results. But if you are craving something with a higher fat content and that's all you can think about all week, that is your chance to get it out.
So
I started playing with doing for those cheat meals just like an unlimited carb meal. And I had a lot of success with it personally and with people I'm working with. I might say, a ceiling of 20 grams of added fat, but unlimited carbs. And it tends to auto-regulate itself to a more modest meal. But it's still
that's probably all things considered, that's probably the best approach for the cheat meal. The only reason I don't do that is it loses that aspect of we're getting whatever you've been really craving out of your system. I
think some people it's like it doesn't get it out of their system. It's like you get a taste of that forbidden fruit and then suddenly you want it more than ever. Like that's me. Like if I'm craving pizza and then I have pizza, now I want pizza 10 times more the next day.
No, I understand that, but what I think that's a good point though. But the type of how am I going to wear this? I mean, again, going back to you get what you get. You have the type of work ethic where you understand that and you won't allow that to happen. If you are someone, you'll I'll have clients who aren't able to self-regulate, and we will cap the cheat meal or we'll limit to a certain types of food or certain macronutrient ratios or a calorie limit. But I like to start with it just free. And if we can make it work that way, great. If we have to cap it in some way, we will. And maybe 50% of people end up getting it capped in some form or another, whether it's calories or carbs or, certain food choices. But about half the people were able to continue with progress. And I think kind of for some people knowing that, maybe they self-dampen it a little bit, knowing that like, oh crap, if I go too apeshit on this, he's going to see my pictures and he's going to pull my cheat meal. So
right. That's a good point.
So we've got another quick one on IQ. Ryan says Troponin IQ has already helped give awesome posing tips. It's amazing for anything bodybuilding related. So that's
I didn't know it did that. Cool. Yeah, you forget what I've written about. Yeah, I mean, I know I've written some articles on posing years ago. Yeah, so crazy.
Yeah, Dom. Now, see, Dom has a question. So this is a good one. Using ChatGPT to analyze my check-in pics during a cut, about how long until the photo upload feature goes live on Troponin IQ?
I can't give it time. We could make it live almost now. I don't want to do anything until, the worst thing we could do is release something too early and have the feature not be effective. So I can't really say, but definitely within a few months, I think.
Would the AI have sort of like a subjective feedback to the photos? Like would it be programmed to say like, oh, you look fantastic, you look great, or could it go off the rails and be like, oh, you look awful, like we need, you know what I mean?
We've trained it to like, we've de-assholed it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, you put it, it's really wild to see in the process how, because you know, you kind of have to decide things like that, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we decide like, I won't divulge personal information. I won't be an asshole, but I will be direct. We could see, the thing is, we could do what ChatGPT, because that's, most of that stuff's open source, you know. So it's not the analyzing the photos that's really the difficult process. There's you know, several platforms, there's several, you know, AI whatever bases that can. What I want to make sure is that it gives the correct responses to it. You know, so analyzing the photos, but is everything that the IQ knows good enough to take the photos? You know, it can analyze it and give it. I just don't want to screw that part up, because I feel like that's going to be a big leap for us, and so I want to make sure we nail it.
Yeah, and there's another quick question, slightly outside. I mean, this could be a Troponin IQ question, actually, coming from Big Chance. Would there be any benefit to using double an HGH dose, 10 IUs plus, on high days to mitigate any fat storage?
I mean, well, you could. That's actually a good question for IQ. I might put it in after we talk about this. With you have a couple things going on, because with the growth hormone, you reduce insulin sensitivity, so you run in the risk of not absorbing the carbs as well. And then, you know, are you like, what kind of fat burning or mitigating fat storage are you talking about? Because if you eat more calories than you burn, they're getting stored in the body somewhere. The growth hormone will increase the rate of, you know, you will burn more fat. And then long term, that means that, you know, you have the same calorie intake. And then if you're less fat at that same calorie intake, that energy has to go somewhere, and it's likely to be stored as muscle mass instead. But you're talking a very slow, small amount, on the order of maybe a milligram or a couple you know, several milligrams, 20 milligrams, 100 milligrams maybe at most on one day. So it's kind of like forest for the trees type thing. Yes, you could argue for it. You could also argue against it with insulin sensitivity. But at the end of the day, it's unlikely that growth hormone's effects on fat loss or preventing fat storage aren't that dramatic over like a 24-hour period. You know, over a 24-year period, absolutely. But one day, I don't know. I think you kind of almost, but it's probably better, but you're also dealing with the reduced insulin sensitivity. So it's not like something I can say it's guaranteed this percentage better.
And we got one more question, it looks like, right now, before we head back on.
Both Johns, but John Heck especially, you can chime in. I talk too much on these. I was getting
brother, you good. There's one more question, and I wouldn't do this personally. You know, I know this has been a topic of, you know, well, you got to do it every day. I wouldn't, but Justin or John, what case do you use insulin every training day instead of only high days? So pretty much almost every day. If you're diabetic, that's when you use it.
well, here's what you run into. The problem is, every time you use exogenous insulin, your body, your tissues are seeing insulin higher than the level they're meant to, which means, like, you know, if you look at any other drug, if you drink alcohol more than your tissues, you know, the more you drink, the less sensitive the tissues get. So every time you inject insulin, there's some level of, you know, desensitization, where the next insulin, whether you produce it or you inject it, is less effective. Now, you know, again, like the growth hormone, over one day or 1 week or even 1 year, it's probably almost nil. But it is what's going on. And so that's what I don't, you know, you potentially, you just don't add enough muscle. And like, if you take Humalog and it's active for like 3 hours hyper super physiologically, we're like 6 hours in total, you don't add enough muscle in 3 hours. You just don't. You know, muscle takes years. And so there's, I mean, if it's a weird one, because if you just take any short chunk of time, yeah, that'll help. But if you just take any short chunk of time, yes, more insulin is going to likely increase muscle growth. But it's also, there's that secondary effect of reducing insulin sensitivity, and that at some point it's going to catch up to you. When, you don't know, but if you take insulin every training day in 10 years, you're not getting the most out of your insulin anymore at year 10 when you probably want it the most, because that's at your peak of your career.
One thing I'd also add is you're always rolling the dice a little bit with insulin around training for just getting some uncomfortable level of hypo during the session. Like I've had a number of training sessions totally thrown off because I went a little bit hypo during the session. You get that kind of irritating cold sweat and you're kind of shaky. And even if I had adequate carbs to cover it, I think if you're just constantly using insulin around training, chances are you're going to have, you often tend to feel off a little bit.
And that's a good point. I think that's a really good point, because what's the bigger impact, positive or negative? Is the positive impact of using insulin greater than the negative impact of having a shit workout?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, I got to a point where I'm like, I'd rather just not have to worry about having a training session sabotaged by insulin, so I can just have the best training sessions possible and worry more about getting strong as possible and progressively overloading when it comes to building muscle. And one thing I'd add for the last guy's question about, adding in additional GH on a high day, I found that really increasing your NEAT, just your walking on a really high carb day has really been helpful. I've noticed that, like, even if insulin's in the mix, if you add in an extra, 5,000 steps to your day, kind of spread out throughout the day, blood sugar levels I've noticed were a little bit lower, and digestion was also improved.
Yeah. And that gives you, most people are about, well, you're a little bigger, but the average adult's like 40 calories per 1,000 steps. You're probably somewhere like 60. So you can kind of almost titrate it with that, how much wiggle room do I want to give?
Yeah. And so, it's one of those things where we get so caught up with, there's so much information online. Chance with my clients, there's so much information online. Sometimes, and one of the main bodybuilders from back in the day, Milos, is a great coach. He's very heavily into insulin use, but you got to remember, he was trying to figure it out back then. And, so we didn't necessarily know everything. So just because people have done things in the past and whatnot, doesn't mean, you should actually go through and copy it. You got to figure out what works for you. But also, sometimes if you're more on the beginning stages of trying to gain muscle and things like that, don't worry about the icing on the cake. Worry about actually building the cake first in that aspect, and you'll be fine and you'll be safe. You'll be able to make a lot of progress. So
the other thing is, like, if you took a poll, like, on how many physiques have been gotten to where they are because tons of insulin was being used versus how many physiques have maybe been ruined by tons of insulin being used, I bet the scales would tip a lot more on the negative side of that scale.
I gotta stop letting you talk, because that's exactly what I was waiting to chime in. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And then you can just look in general. Look at the top people in the sport, in bodybuilding and powerlifting. Everyone kind of knows who was the mega insulin guys, who are the guys, and how direct and how one-to-one is the correlation between the top bodybuilders each year, each decade, and those who were known as the ones who use the most insulin. That doesn't say anything about whether or not insulin works. It just means that there are bigger things at play, like your training, your diet, and your genetics, and your other PED use. So it's fun to always talk and think about those things, but it's always important to look back and say, okay, Dorian, Ronnie, Phil, Jay, what were the things in common amongst all of those? And you'll see really quickly that insulin, none of those guys were known as super insulin guys. I'm sure they all used it, but none of them were kind of like a Milos, like, known for it. So if it was the deciding factor, that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah, 100%. So, and it's the same thing with diuretics. When back when diuretics in the 90s and stuff really started hitting the mainstream, and for bodybuilding, it was like you're pretty much trying to figure out how much you can use, before it's like you reach that limit and things start going bad. And now we realize, hey, just like John said, it can either make your physique 5% better or 20% worse, completely flatten you out, make you look like you didn't even diet, all because you flattened out because of diuretic use. So sometimes it's almost worth, not even doing it sometimes, because it's not going to make you that much better.
Yeah. Patrick Ennis turned pro classic recently. We've never used a diuretic with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, because he's just naturally thin skinned and dry, and so that goes back to genetics. If we would ever try to give him a diuretic, he would just flatten to shit and look like garbage, where some guys are water buffaloes. And so, like there's no one answer to anything, which is, I guess, what makes the sport fun, but also makes it difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, true. So really quick, John, we haven't seen you in a minute. What have you done recently with your diet, and are you planning to go into a competition recently? Because I've seen some strongman stuff. And
yeah, so I've been back and forth on it. So I'm dieting right now, and I do every year. I kind of just live the bodybuilder lifestyle. I think I love doing it, and it's good for business. I thought I was going to get on stage this year, but I've had so many coaching just situations pop up. Like in August, I'm going to the Strongest Man on Earth competition for a week because I've
is that
got
the Brian Shaw one?
Exactly. I've got 4 big pro strongmen competing in it, and I'm doing their nutrition coaching. So I'm going to be on site doing cooking their competition day meals and doing all their hydration on site.
Damn.
And I've got a couple seminars that I'm doing. So I've just had so many things popping up, podcasts popping up, that I was like, if I choose a show right now, I'm going to get so hyper focused on that.
Yeah.
That something is going to take a hit. And right now I've just got to prioritize the coaching and the business. So I can diet and get shredded and all that, and still be a good coach,
And plug your podcast, because it's probably most people on here know it already, but it's a very good podcast.
Yeah, so it's the Hammer and Chisel Performance Podcast. Both Justin and John have been on it, and I'd love to get them both back on again. Justin, your episode is awesome. John, I've already gotten a lot of good feedback on yours, but you can find that. I put every episode on YouTube and on Spotify. It's growing right now, but I mean, you go through the guest list. I've had the unique opportunity of just having a lot of great guests from all over the industry, whether it's strongman, bodybuilding. We had Paul Barnett on. Powerlifting, Ed Cohn, Joe Sullivan, Brandon Allen. I've got a bunch of top dog strongmen coming on, NFL strength coaches, Mark Bell, guys like that. So go check it out.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, great guests every week or every podcast. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been a very busy month for all of us. The one thing that we've been able to talk about a little bit, but like Justin said, the Generation Iron documentary, which will be coming out, hopefully end of the year, maybe early next year. We're not quite sure yet, but we've been filming since last September, and hopefully you guys get to see that and enjoy it. So if you're bored at home one day and you want to watch Netflix or whatever, and you see our stuff on there, make sure you check it out, and maybe it'll help you fall asleep. I don't know.
I think it's going to be, it's interesting because you forget how much, because I've been doing this so long, it just feels like everything's always the same, but like, some of the first things we filmed were at the Olympia when we didn't even have a booth. We were just setting a couple t-shirts down on a table, and then, then we had the Arnold booth, and it's like 30 foot, you guys both there. We got Bumblebee custom design. We have like the low of like we going into the Arnold thinking you're turning pro and not turning pro, the high of turning pro at Masters, the growth of the supplement company, Brandon Curry competing at the Arnold and doing well after, doing poorly at the Olympia, all the, the stuff. I mean, yeah, like thinking back, like, it's like you realize how much has happened the past year, because like some of the stuff that we filmed early on feels like a decade ago. When we started filming, there was Troponin Nutrition. That was it. It was essentially like Troponin Supplements. I just bought my partner out that day, basically, and that was why they contacted me. So, the day before the Generation Iron stuff, I was a coach. That was it. And we have a coach in the supplement company and Troponin IQ. We've had several competitors turn pro. We had, Brandon Curry do out the Arnold. We've got, a booth at the Arnold Expo. And it's crazy how, like, because you always feel like you're working so hard and it feels like it's just not happening fast enough. But then you think back like, geez, this has been a busy year.
We've done a lot in a year.
Mm-hmm.
We are so thankful and blessed, though, to have so many supportive people that are our friends, that we meet at expos, that we meet at shows, that we meet at the gym. and just the support you guys have given and shown and commented and sent messages and talked with us in person or gone to seminars with us. And yeah, it means a ton to us. It means a ton. And hopefully, you got to see us at the Arnold. If you missed us at the Arnold this year, we will definitely be back next year because we had such a good time. We talked to so many of you guys. I think all of our voices were gone between John's voice, Justin's voice. We were pretty much done.
Hey, I don't know how you big boys are doing. My feet hurt, my knees hurt, my hips hurt. Those are long days. Yeah,
my ankles were double the size and swelling at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and our booth designer didn't send the carpet. We got padded like sport flooring for that reason. It arrived the day after we left.
So we'll have that for next year.
Yeah, we'll have it for next year. Yeah,
so
we're walking on air.
So yeah, so we're gonna do something slightly off topic. I just wanted to see if you guys have been watching recently. Pretty much everyone's qualified. There may be a couple other guys qualified for the Olympia in the next couple shows. But who do you guys have as your front runner for, I would say, top 2 or 3 in the Olympia this year?
Man, Samson's been looking good.
If he can bring the condition,
you guys think you think Nick Walker is going to come back in?
Man, do you see the pics of him at 291?
Yeah,
dude, I would have 2 weeks ago. I would have said no, but dude, 291, he's in shape. If that's legit, and it looked legit, he looked 26 inch arms. I mean, it doesn't even look like. I was zooming in trying to see. I was like, this got to be Photoshop. There's no way someone's arm is that big.
It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, just for the excitement of the sport, I hope he comes in like a Dorian in 1993 type change or Jay Cutler 2001, something where you just just leap forward not out of nowhere, but leap forward from the previous year. That would be badass. But I just think from a tool standpoint, Samson, I like Derek's physique. I really, really like his physique. Everything, I think, he gets in shape. The problem is I'm not saying this in any negative way whatsoever, but he hasn't really been consistent with nailing it. He's been off a few times. He still looks amazing when he's off. And I think when he's 100% dialed in, he's as good as anybody. But he's been a little inconsistent. He loses his quad sweep. If he's flat at all, he loses his quad sweep. And then it seems like if he tries to push the fullness just a little bit too hard, he kind of spills. He gets softer, and only in certain areas, because his glutes will be bone dry, but then he'll be kind of flat, soft through the front of his quads. So the nice thing is that it's exciting to have exciting Olympias. It feels like there was a stretch where we just didn't. We had the Ronnie and Jay years, the Phil and Kai years.
Same guys. You knew what the result was before it happened.
Yeah, but I mean, those were even a little bit, even though you kind of knew, but then there was a little stretch, with, and it was good that other guys were winning it, but it just, for whatever reason, it didn't feel like there wasn't the buildup. Like I love that there's like a handful of guys that could all pull it off.
I'm going to agree with my client Chance. I'm going to say Samson number 1, because it's just the size, the shape. If he comes in condition, no one can beat him. He's too big. He's too symmetrical. He's got great shape. I would say Nick for second, just because of the freak factor. I mean, he has more muscle than anybody, but he doesn't have the shape that like a Samson would, so that may stop him from getting there. But if Samson's off, Nick can win. And then I would say third, I would say Hadi, just because the consistency of, he's consistent, and I would say Hadi for third. I'd say Derek fourth.
Did anyone see his 50% quote? Hadi? Hadi said his 50% of his goal physique.
What
I know. I don't know what that means, but I was like, you're going to get 100% better than this? But I just thought that was interesting. But I mean, he's not halfway as good as he's going to be. He just isn't. No. But I think that it kind of explains a lot. You see him training, and he trains hard, and you think like, how does a guy like that still have that in him? Even if you have the love for it, it's still when you're dieting and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think like if that's true and he really believes he can get that much better, that's awesome. That shows in his training.
Yeah.
How old is he at this point? He's in his 40s?
He's got to be almost 40.
Yeah, he's older than halfway. It was, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
I
I
don't know
mean,
if he's gonna keep him.
no,
I
but
mean, he looks
I
great.
just thought that
But
was just interesting because it was like, like you're thinking like 1% better, 2% better.
that's
Like
confidence. I mean, that's confidence.
yeah. I kind of liked it. Yeah, I mean, there's no way he's getting double as good as he is now. But
Not
the
at
fact that
40.
he thinks that's an option is he's going to train for it.
As a
Yeah.
coach, you got to see your client asserting they're going to get 50% better. Be like, whoa, let's pump the brakes on publicly putting that out there. You put a lot
Yeah,
of pressure on me as the
yeah,
coach.
yeah. Because then he gets 20% better, and you could argue, well, they were 30% worse than they said they were going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, the percentages. Oh man, yeah. I mean, but it's going to be a good Olympia. It's going to be a great Olympia. So lots of shows left in the year for people to qualify and get up there. So that'll be really cool to see. I will say, the national shows we got coming up, North Americans. Actually, I'm sorry, USA's is tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've got North Americans in a month or two, and then we've got nationals at the end of the year, of course. So we've got a lot of good stuff, got a lot of good shows coming up. So we're definitely excited for those. And, I would say that, going forward, we might have some wrap ups on some of these and stuff because we're going to try to be a little more consistent with the podcast. So hopefully you guys appreciate that and stuff. But before, we start wrapping things up, I just wanted to give Justin one more opportunity to let people know how to get Troponin IQ. How do you get it? Where is it?
You can't go to anything Troponin. You can go to troponiNIQ.com. If you go to troponinutrition.com and click on the Troponin IQ link, it'll take you there. If you go to troponinssupplements.com, click on the Troponin IQ link, it'll take you there. Actually, if someone wants, I can show. If someone has a good question, I can add one. And we'll ask. We can ask it. Yeah, someone give me a question.
An example. Chance, ask a question that we can use for.
Who's got a good one? Will you make out with my rep? Let's see. Yeah. RIP Hulk and Ozzy.
Well,
Ozzy Osbourne. How about Ozzy giving that farewell con? He basically sang at his funeral. I mean, that dude was rock and roll to the end. I mean, he died. He practically walked off stage and died. That's awesome.
That's how it is. You work a blue collar job until you're 85, and then you finally retire, and 2 weeks later you die. Yeah. You don't even get to use your pension. Like you just did.
John, I got a question for you. Are you going to be getting huge this off season? Is this going to be kind of like a take a break off season, or is this
this is going to be a getting huge. We have pretty decent shape, and so the goal is to put 12 to 15 more pounds stage weight on. So I haven't had an off season since 2022. We look back at it. It's pretty much been the longest I've had is like 3 months between a show and we started prep. So having longer than that, probably at least 10 months. We're going to be pushing some things and some food and supplements and everything and troponin supplements and the whole nine. So hopefully put 12 to 15 pounds on. I'm going to be monitoring blood work and a lot of stuff really closely. And hopefully, I mean, honestly, dude, try to win the pro debut. It's super rare, but we're just going to do the best we can, try to win it. So
when is that big push for you? Is it starting right now, or is it kind of take a month?
I'll give myself a little bit of time. So it's been a week. So probably about another, I mean, to be fair, I'm just running like a low dose cruise test right now and that's it. So maybe like a month and a half, 2 months type thing. And then just letting everything calm down mentally, physically, maintaining the food. We haven't lowered food. We're pretty much, I was talking to Justin today. I've been pretty much doing 70 grams of carbs a meal and about 7 ounces of steak a meal, red meat. So maybe a little added fats and stuff here and there.
Got it. No, I'm excited to see it, man. I'm excited to follow along with this off season.
It's time to be a freak.
Let's go. Let's go. Basketball head John incoming.
Yeah.
Pumpkin face. All right, really good question. All right, Chase. So I asked it. Let me share my screen here.
All right, so here's Troponin IQ.
I don't know if you can read that. I'll read it. For a 220-pound male at 8% body fat, we're looking at about 202 pounds of lean body mass. Based on this, your maximum glycogen storage capacity would be approximately muscle glycogen, about 15 grams per kilogram of muscle, so 7 to 750 grams total. Liver glycogen, 100 120 grams, for a total maximum glycogen storage in the body of 800 to 870 grams of glycogen. And then there's a bunch of important context. This assumes fully depleted to fully loaded state. You'll need about 3.5 grams of water for every 1 gram of glycogen stored for the glycogen to actually be stored. So then full glycogen loading can temporarily increase weight by 8 to 12 pounds. And then I don't know if you can read all that if it's too small or not, but there's, it says practical application. And then to achieve this, you're going to need over 1,000 grams of carbohydrates in a 24 to 36 hour period. It tells you how much water will require. And you're going to need 20 to 25 grams of sodium, which is something a lot of people don't really know, that, glycogen requires sodium to form, which is why part of the spilling over process, when you dry out, if you use diuretics and your sodium gets depleted, that's what happens. You're no longer able to store the glycogen. And then it always asks at the end, would you like me to elaborate on the loading protocol to achieve maximum glycogen storage? That's a different conversation with some important details to consider. I made sure it always tries to ask a follow-up to keep digging deeper. We're not just giving surface answers. And then it's trying to take you as deep into the information as it can.
It's pretty damn
you can
impressive.
see, I was trying to think of things because I remember one time small tissue injuries, and I remember trying to figure out like the calories that like recovering from injuries would take. And I don't remember any of that, but I know I knew it, and I wrote articles and I wrote stuff. I don't know if I even published it ever, but I remember I was researching it. I can ask you right now, how many calories to recover from a small tissue injury? What kind of small tissue? Like an elbow. Like an elbow injury.
A little bit of that small tissue.
Yeah, let me bring it
John,
back.
I see that pro card in the background, man.
Yeah.
I can see my. Dude, I love the little football helmets. I have a
Do you
bunch
have
of
IFBB Pro in your Instagram bio yet?
Before IFBB _ pro _ John Rivas _ IFBB.
No, I'm not
pro
changing my
_
Instagram name. I'm not changing. I put it in my bio, but I'm not changing my Instagram name.
Yeah, but you can see this tells you how much calories it takes to recover from it, what additional vitamins and things you would need. It's really just it's remarkable. It's I mean, if you're a coach, I don't want to tell you to use it. I hope you don't, because that's not fair to your clients. You should be, but there's. I want, if anyone's watching us, try to stump it, and if you can, report back. There's stuff on the app, on the site, where it asks for feedback. I want you to stump it, so I know what to train it on. I know what to study and what to learn, but I can't get it stumped. I can't stump it. So on fitness, anyways, we thought about training it on physics, my physics research and stuff, but it's not. But I didn't want it to turn into that. So I think if you ask about physics, it just says let's keep it with fitness.
Oh shoot, man! Jimmy's in the chat. What's up, Jimmy? Long time to talk, man. Thanks, brother. Hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, so Troponin IQ is up and launched, guys. We went over a little bit of what it was, how to get it. Just even showed you guys an example if you want to go back and pause it and look at in this YouTube video. So, hopefully you guys continue to use it and help it develop, and so we can take over the industry and everyone resorts to it for knowledge. And because at the end of the day, knowledge is wealth and power, and so the more we have,
all benefit. It's going to be able to give us answers we can't answer now. The high protein debate, the carb cycling debate, the keto debate, carnivore. We'll be able we won't have to debate it. We will have the data showing who progresses the fastest and what they did to progress that way, and we'll know.
Exactly.
So, does it know your bloat protocol for, like, if I'm a geared powerlifter, I need to gain 30 pounds by the weekend.
I did a little ad. I asked it to do a 20-pound weight cut in a 24-hour weigh-in, and it did it. Let me do sorry, slow typer when someone's looking at me. All right, let me see if I can share this again.
It's so hot in my house, by the way, right now. I've had no AC for like 2 days. I'm currently dying.
I don't know if you guys can read that. There we go.
It's hard. It's small.
Yeah, I'll just go. But yeah, it gives a, geez. There we go. Yeah, it gives a full bloat protocol. It says, how many grams of carbohydrates, how much sodium, how much water, what types of carbs. Let's start immediately after weigh-in. The first 4 hours, you want to get this amount of your total carbs and this amount of sodium. Yeah, I mean, it's a little creepy because we can put a voice on it. It's trained on my voice. The server cost is too high right now. If we get, we get 1 million users, I'm going to do it. But that is creepy because you ask it a question and we have voice mode. So I can ask myself a question and I respond as I would respond. And it fucking sounds like me. It's wild, but it's just too expensive to run it.
Do you want me to do voices for it so we can use all the different coaches?
Like Siri.
I'll do Branch. I'll do Milos.
Oh yeah, give me an answer. I just ask you a question. It's the day before the Olympia, and I asked you a dumb question. How do you respond?
Yeah.
I wonder if you could train it to have like a hard ass coach version of you, like depending on the psychology of your client, like you give them the hard ass version or you give them the soft coddling.
You can, and that stuff's already open source because you can train off of like the known stuff, Grok, OpenAI, like there's generalized stuff for that. But further, what I would like to do is I eventually want to get additional coaches on here, have your full body of work on, and then you can say, hey, Troponin IQ, answer this as all the coaches, and then tell me how John Heck would answer compared to just, and I want that, and I want people from different industries. It's just, obviously, we need to profit in that, or we don't need to profit. We need to cover our costs. The server costs get high, the developer costs. We have a full-time development team now, but I just want to know this stuff. I really want if we can get, this is the stuff that I didn't have. I had the Weeder magazines. I had this, Shawshank Redemption when, Andy Dufresne had to crawl through 500 yards of shit smelling foulness to get to freedom. We had to sift through 500 pages of shit garbage to get a little bit of information. This is our chance to move past that and answer all these things. Maybe not a definitive answer, but real world. If I could have been 22 years old again, and I could watch, a silhouette mold of a human progress with a progressive overload and carb cycling versus keto and whatever type of training, and see which one grew faster, that would have been way easier than reading 9,000 Weeder magazines and getting the wrong information the whole time.
Yeah.
Does the AI have the capacity to kind of suss things out if it picks up that the client may be wrong or reporting misinformation? Like, hey, I've been following the diet for 4 weeks. I haven't lost any weight. Could it have the capacity to be like, show me the portion of the food you've actually been eating? You know what I mean?
We have
question the client.
Yeah, it'll know that you are from a conservation of energy standpoint, which we've decided, because the smartest people in the world have decided, no one can disprove conservation of energy, and we are an open thermodynamic system bound by the laws of conservation of energy. We have to decide, that's the anti-dick mode. We have to say, let's dig deeper into what you've been doing, because based on the laws of thermodynamics, it's not possible to have the body count. And it'll you can't. It's because the computers are smart. It's everything I've ever known. At the moment, I knew it best. You think when you write an article and you got research stuff, because you don't want to type one word wrong. You want to nail it. It knows it how you knew it at that moment forever, for eternity. Most of these things I vaguely remember even understanding. Or like I said, with the acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase 2, I remember studying that and because I was trying to work on what type of fat loss supplement or a PED we could use that worked through that pathway, but I barely remember any of it. This knows all of it. It's like going right back. It's like going back to my brain from 2007 whenever I ask it questions on it. It's creepy.
Well, good. I mean, hopefully that helps people a little bit understand a little more about Troponin IQ now. We got some examples and stuff in this podcast episode. So, we're going to keep talking about this as we keep expanding upon Troponin IQ and learning more and more and more and see what it can do. So hopefully you guys bear with us. And like I said, now that things have simmered down a little bit from filming, our Generation Iron documentary is done. We've traveled a lot. We're going to have a little bit more time for more podcasts. John may be a little bit busy. He's starting to ramp up, so we'll have to get him on when we can. But
John's starting to celebrity. God, your social media is blown up.
Well, I appreciate it. No, but I'll always know the Troponin supplements. You guys are very important to me and always will be. And I'm big on loyalty. So, I'll always be making time for making appearances, whatever events you guys are at. I'll be at the Arnold again, of course. I don't know if I miss my flights, I'll just rent a car and drive. I'll always jump on the podcasts. I have a lot of fun with this.
So, guys, for Justin, John, and myself, make sure you guys check out TroponinSupplements.com. Make sure you check out our Suppressor Max. If you're one of those insulin guys, check out our intro workout because it's hot and you need your electrolytes and your sodium and everything in that bad boy. So make sure you guys check those out. And also, we got our fat burner on there too, Go Pills. So if you're trying to lose a weight, we still got some summertime left. You want to get abs for the beach, go check them out. TroponinSupplements.com. For Justin, John, and myself signing out. We'll see you guys next time.